We are glad you have found us today. My name is Ulysses, and I'm one of the pastors here at MCC. It is our hope that this time together is an encouragement and a blessing to you. Let's prepare our hearts for the word God has for us today. Last weekend, my cousin George and his wife Patty got the news that their 6-year-old daughter has DIPG, which is a form of cancer that it forms in the back of your neck and it connects to your spine, and that there is no cure yet, and they gave her 6 to 9 months to live. And as they did a little social media thing for the family, so the family was all informed of what was going on. And I was thinking, God, what do I tell my cousin? What words can I ever say to make him feel better? And there was really nothing. I didn't know what. I texted him. I said, cousin, I'm praying for you and your family. God is in control. If you need anything, let me know. And I started talking with God, talking with my wife, and I'm like, I got a granddaughter that's 5 years old. That could have been my granddaughter. And I'm like, God, why is this happening? God, why? God, how can I help my cousin? I was clueless. I didn't know what to do. And God started speaking to me. He started speaking to me, and it's God has funny. He left us this for a reason. Because he does speak to us through this. And if you can open your Bible to 2 Samuel. Second Samuel 23. Vamos a estar en 2 de Samuel 23. For all my Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters. 2 Samuel. We're not going to throw it up there because today we're going to go use our Bibles. Woo! I had to dust mine off too. Don't feel bad. We get used to the computer. The computer makes life so much easier than our phone. You can use your phone, I guess, if you have your phone. 2 Samuel 23, 8 through 12. And it talks about the mighty men of David. David had 3 mighty men. He had 3 mighty men that he counted on, that they were his 3 mighty men. The first one, it'll be verses 8 through 12. I'm going to read it out of order, but that's where I'm going to be at. 2 Samuel 23, 8 through 12. The first mighty man was the captain. His name was Adino the Iznite. And he killed 800 men by himself. And if you read, it says, at one time, so the Lord gave him victory. The second mighty man was Eleazar, the son of Dudu, the Ahohite. I'm going to butcher these a little bit, okay? So, you got to remember, right? I'm reading this in English, and I read English and Spanish. And then the names aren't everyday names, so it's kind of complicated to read these names. So the Eleazar, one of the second mighty man that David had, he fought a battle for so long that his hand was stuck like that in the sword. He couldn't open his hand. That he fought a battle for so long, killed so many men, that the rest of the army, they just came back to get all the stuff off the dead soldiers and take it. That's the second mighty man. These are victories that the Lord gave them, okay? They're fine. I know it's about killing, but these are victories that the Lord gave them. The third mighty man that David had his name was Shammah, and verse 11, and it says this, now after him was Shammah in the middle of a field with lentils. Lentils are peas, little green peas. And the people of Israel, they had planted these seeds, cultivated them, watered them, they tilled the ground. It was some back-breaking work, and they planted this field of lentils. So what happens is they're about to get the lentils, and then the Philistines, they see the Philistines coming on them, riding on horses, yelling the war cry, swords and armor, ready to kill all of them. And everybody runs away except for Shammah. Shammah stays in that middle of that lentil field and fights off the Philistines and defends the field. I'm not a big fan of peas. I would have run. They can have all the peas they want. Sean said, I would have said if they were like, how do you say it, Sean? Mangoes? Because bongos are called mangoes. But Sean said in English, you call them mangoes. Or somebody say it? Mangoes? The correct way of saying them is mangos. Okay? If you haven't had a mango in your life, you better eat one because you are missing out. It wasn't an apple that Adam and Eve ate, it was a mango. They're delicious. But Shammah stayed in the middle of that lentil field, and he defended him, and he fought, and the Lord, it says, the Lord gave him victory. Bless you. Shammah was all alone, so it appeared in the middle of this pea patch, but he was ready to defend it. He was in the middle of a mess. What a desperate situation to be in. But he stood, and the Lord gave him victory. I don't know what kind of a mess you're in. I don't know what kind of a crisis you're in. But I look at my cousin George and his wife Patty, and they're in the middle of a health crisis. And I look at them, and I see the peace that they have, and I say, that is only through God that they can do that. Only through God. When they're in the middle of this battle, they're not alone, because God is with them. God is with them. How many times have you found yourself in the middle of a mess? How many times do you find yourself in a financial mess? A family mess? How about a personal mess? How many times do you find yourself in a messy situation and you say, where's Jesus? Why am I all alone? Why am I abandoned? How many times have you found yourself in the middle of a mess with nowhere to go, feeling all abandoned? Shammah was by himself. Everybody left him. He stayed in that field by himself. He fought because the Lord was with him. It doesn't matter what you're going through or what kind of a mess it is you're in. The Lord is in the middle of the mess with you. Yeah, so we can laugh. Yeah. So that we can be in peace, that we don't have to worry. You may be going through the biggest storm of your life, but I'm here to tell you that Jesus is in the middle. The storm my cousin is going through, I can't even imagine. But it's a pretty big storm. It's a pretty big storm. I'm not crying. I'm sweating. It gets hot up here. It's okay. I'm not going to faint. We'll do fist bump after service. Okay, no shaking hands. I want to read Mark 6. Mark 6, if you want to go to it, Mark 6, 47 through 48. Marcos 6, 47, 48. Mark 6, 47 through 48. Now when evening came, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land. This is Jesus. He was alone on the land. Then he saw them straining at rowing, for the wind was against them. This is the disciples are rowing in the sea. Now about the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. Jesus came out to them walking on the sea. He came out to where they were in the middle of the storm. They were in the middle of a storm. I don't know what kind of, if your life is hunky-dory, awesome. But I know most of us are going through a storm. There's always something happening. Our lives are messy. And I'm not just saying that maybe it wasn't you, but maybe it's a sibling of yours. Maybe it's one of your children. Maybe it's one of your parents. I don't know. But he came out to where the disciples were in the middle of the storm. Jesus come out to the middle of the storm you catch yourself in right now. But when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost. And they cried out because they saw him and they were all terrified. And immediately he spoke to them and he says this, "Take courage. Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." He tells us today, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. I don't know what you're going through. But take courage. Jesus is with you. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Whatever it is that God has called you to, don't worry, don't be afraid. Jesus is with us. Whatever mess you're in, don't be afraid. A lot of times we walk through life scared. A lot of times we walk through life afraid. I'm all alone. I have nobody helps me, nobody loves me, Jesus is with you. That's the only person that needs to be with you. Don't be afraid. Take courage. Jesus is with you. Imagine how we can walk every day if we remembered, take courage, Jesus is with me, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Let MCC church family be a church family that people say, you know what? Jesus is with them because they walk not afraid, but they walk believing that he's with them. We haven't got this far because we're so smart. We haven't gotten to where we're at because you were lucky. You know why you're here now? Because Jesus has been with you through all the messes you've been through in all your life. You know how many friends of mine are buried in the ground because of one stupid mistake? It doesn't take much for us to end this. One bad choice. And that's it. But we've gotten to where we're at because Jesus has been with us this whole time. It's not because of your good looks. Has nothing to do with us. It's all because of him. All of it. In Daniel chapter 3, don't turn to it. The Lord is in the midst of a fire. You guys remember the three men thrown into the fiery furnace? In Daniel chapter 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, it says they were thrown down, bound in the middle of a burning fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar, don't laugh, you guys can't say it either, was astonished, and he rose in a hurry and said to his counselors, do we not throw three men bound into the middle of the fire? And they answered and said to the king, yes, king, look. He answered, I see four men walking in the middle of the fire, and they are not burnt. And the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. Who is the Son of God? Who's the Son of God? Jesus. Jesus was with these three guys in the fiery furnace. Do you guys know that this fiery furnace was heated 7 times hotter than usual? That the men that threw in the three guys actually died? Because he got too close to the furnace and it was so hot? Tell me we don't serve an awesome God. Tell me that we don't serve a big God. You can't tell me that we don't serve an awesome big God. Because only God can do this. No matter what you're going through, when God is in the middle of it with you, he will protect you. That which the devil meant to harm you will not have any power over you. Do you know that those three men, not a single hair was burned off their head? They didn't even smell like smoke. They were in the middle of a fiery furnace heated 7 times hotter than what it usually was, and they didn't even smell like smoke. Yesterday I was at the beach. I made a little campfire. That's what I do. And I got all smoke, stinky, bad. Because you build a fire with the driftwood and the smoke, it's more smoke than fire. These guys were in the middle of a fiery furnace and they didn't even smell like smoke. Tell me we don't serve a big God. Tell me we don't serve a big God. The enemy can't touch you when God is in the middle with you, no matter what it is. Finances, health, family, whatever, etc. When God is in the middle, you don't have to fear. You don't have to fear. Do not be afraid. Over and over, he tells us in stories in the Bible, not be afraid. He is with us. Take courage. The enemy can make it look pretty bad. Again, my cousin's daughter is dying. They gave her 6 to 9 months. But I was telling my wife, how awesome is it that they have 6 to 9 months, maybe more. Jesus has the last word. God can do anything. But they get to say goodbye to their daughter for all those days. Because God could have called her one day and that's it. But he still gave them an opportunity to say their byes. If God decides to call her home. Well, we know we serve a God that's big and can do anything he wants. I want more than a miracle of healing for her name is Sienna. Because that's what I would be praying for. That was my little girl. But if he does decide to call her home, they got to do everything that she wanted to do before she left. And another story in Daniel 6, it talks about the king giving the command that brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. In the middle of the lion's den, Daniel was thrown in. The stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring. And the purpose concerning Daniel might not have changed. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in a hurry to the den of lions. When he came, he's all, Daniel, are you still alive? The king spoke to Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God whom you serve continually been able to deliver you from the lions? This king was smart. He knew what kind of God Daniel served. The king knew that Daniel served a God that can do anything. Anything. Tell him we're not home. He said, has your God whom you serve continually been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel said to the king, oh, king, live forever. My God sent his angel in the middle of this lion's den and shut the lion's mouth so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him, and I'm innocent before you, he told the king. The king knew what kind of God Daniel served. Do you and I know what kind of God we serve? Do we know what kind of God we serve? What kind of God? Do you serve a little God that comes through for you once in a while? Or do you serve a big God that can do anything according to his will? Not our will, to his will. He's not a little genie that we rub the bottle and he makes our wishes come true. But God does have a plan. And he has victory through Jesus who died on the cross. What kind of God do you serve? When you're right smack dab in the middle of the biggest battle of your life, there is a God who can shut the mouth of the lions. The Word of God says in 1 Peter 5:8, be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary, the devil, is as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. The devil just came to rob, steal, and destroy. 3 things. That's all he came to do. But we have victory because we serve the big God. God showed up in the middle of the lions and he shut the mouth of the lions because they were roaring. And when our God shuts up a lion, he shuts him down. When our God does something, he does it for good. When our God moves, ain't nothing going to stop him. Do we believe this? When our God has said, you know what, there's a promised land out there. There's people out there to be won. Are we going to cower down, or are we going to go and win those people for God? Are we going to be a church on the move, or are we just going to be a country club? Are we going to be doing what God has called us to do, to go out and make disciples? Or are we just happy that we made it to heaven? Everybody else can fend for themselves. We got some choices to make. We're going to believe we serve a big God that can do anything, has called us for a purpose. Or not. You may be in the middle of a crisis, but Christ is bigger. You may be in the middle of a fiery furnace, heated 7 times hotter than ever before, but God is right there in the middle of it with you. He is in the middle of your struggle. He is in the middle of your situation. He is in the middle of your storm. No matter what it is that you're going through, He is in the middle of the mess. We need to understand this. We need to grasp this. You might feel like you're bound and in the middle of a prison, but you're not. How many of us remember the story of Paul and Silas in Acts when they got arrested? And then they got put in shackles and stocks in Acts. It says that when they had struck them with many blows, they threw them into prison, commanding the jailer to keep them securely. Having received such a charge, he put them into the inner prison and fastened their feet in the stocks. But as midnight fell, Paul and Silas were praising and singing hymns to God. How many of us have been in shackles and stocks? Anybody? Anybody been in the hole in prison, in jail? Maybe. I've been in the hole in prison. They didn't shackle me. It's not as bad as in the movies. It's just a cell, but you're by yourself. But I was not praising God when I was in that room. Can you imagine their faith? Paul and Silas are sitting and it was probably awful, smelly, probably dungeony looking place. And they're praising God in shackles and their feet are in stocks. And I'm not a singer, so maybe I'm just going to say, like, Jesus loves me. Yes, I know. For the Bible tells me so. I don't know what they were singing. They were praising God. And what happens? The shackles come off, the doors open, and they're free. It does not matter what you're going through. Jesus is in the middle of your mess. Doesn't matter what it is. We have to understand that He is in the middle and He is there with us, and we will have victory. Not because of us, but because of Him. No matter what you're going through or may go through in the future, always remember that the Lord is there with you in the middle of whatever it is. I want to end with this. Once you know that God is with you and your trust is totally in Him, you can dance through whatever storm it is. I'm not saying it'll be easy. There ain't nothing easy about living life. But once you give Him everything, you've got it won. You've got it won. You might shed some tears. I'm not saying you're not going to shed no tears. Might be some nights where you don't sleep. You might get some wounds because it's a battle. But knowing that you have victory, total victory, in the end will make all the difference in the world. I've seen it. I've seen God in the middle of I've gotten in some big messes, and I've seen God in the middle. A lot of times I didn't even know He was there. But the only reason that I'm up here standing is because He was. And He never left me, and He won't ever leave me, because what does it say in Matthew 28, the last verse? He won't leave us till the very end. We hope this message has been an encouragement and blessing to you today. And if it has, we would love to hear from you. You can email us at pray@mymcc.cc. For more info about MCC, you can check us out at mymcc.cc. We hope to see you again next week. But until then, may you grow in faith and love for God.